I love being in Seattle. It's dope here, you know. Feels like if Brooklyn had mountains. Yeah, it's just a more relaxed, seemingly relaxed pace of life here than I'm used to. Because even y'all's, I'm not critiquing, I'm just noticing. Even y'all's crime is at a slower pace. You know what I mean? Like, y'all still got crime and everything, but when it happens, it's like, everybody's like, oh yeah, that is illegal. This didn't happen this time, but years ago, I was in Seattle and I saw, it was a very confusing sight. I don't know what I saw, but what it looked like from the outside, looking in Brooklyn to Seattle, what it looked like was this woman's purse had been stolen. But the thief and the woman weren't running. I think that's what confused us all, because we were, like, one of two things was happening, all right? Either a couple had an argument, the man walked away forgetting he had been holding his girlfriend's purse. So he walking off in a huff, and then she following him because maybe she knows whatever she said went a little too far this time. Or a man with very little commitment to his craft stole a woman's purse and then casually walked off. And then a woman who must not care about the purse decided, I'll go get it. It was so confusing because the man was walking, and he was walking like casually. He's just walking, holding the purse, but just walking. And then the woman behind him is like, hey, hey, hey. And then at one point she leaned towards the purse to grab, the strap. And the man was like, huh. That's when I had to reassess the whole situation. Because what if it was not this woman's purse? What if this woman is the lazy thief? What if this man is just trying to have a day out with his purse, and this woman who likes the purse is like, I would like to have that, and I don't plan on paying or running. And they just continue like that down the street. Hey, hey, hey. I watched them do this into the distance. I didn't want to get involved because you ever get involved in an argument and you pick the wrong side, and now you don't know where you stand. You see two people arguing and everything. It's like you try to step in, try to be not necessarily a hero, but just a good Samaritan. Hey, what's the problem here, right? And then you feel like at the end of this thing you should have just left it alone. One time, I was doing a bar show, and we get out of the bar show, and in the parking lot is this couple having this shouting match, and this big old dude and this tiny woman, and he's not moving in a way that's threatening her, but he is like just yelling at her real loud, and she's yelling too, but he's got a booming voice, and she just can't match his level. And they are getting like a little closer. He's still not like bucking up or anything. It's just, if anything, she's walking up to him, I guess to make her point, a little bit more clearly. And so, I don't know, my friends and I saw this, and I just walked over, just being like, hey, y'all good? What's with all this yelling? And admittedly, I was talking to him. This is a big old dude yelling at this tiny woman. And I'm in my head, I'm like, all right, hopefully if I step in, somebody will back me up. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not big enough to stop him, and I don't know the proper techniques, but if I throw myself at him and somebody else is coming, then maybe together we could come up with something to do. And so he's yelling, she's yelling. I'm like, hey, y'all good? Y'all good? What's up? What's up? Calm down, bro. What's up? And then he's like, she poisoned my dog. Because I had everybody looking at me from when I said I'm gonna go say something. And then they heard that part, and then I'm like, I wish I was over there with y'all, because y'all were in the minding your business section. That looks like a better section to be in. And I didn't know what to do, because I don't know what their history is, but if the most recent thing that has happened is the poisoning of the dog, if the only thing that has happened is the poisoning of the dog, I think he might be in the right to raise his voice, to have a little volume, I don't know the condition of the dog. And so he says that to me, and in the moment, they had both stopped yelling. They were both looking at me. And then the people who I left, my friends from the show, were also looking at me. And in my head, I'm like, well, this really shouldn't be on me. That's crazy. I came over to diffuse the situation, and then I became diffused. And so I'm like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? She poisoned my dog. And then everybody's just staring. And so I'm looking at my friends, and I turn back to those two, and I go from looking at him to looking at her, and I go, stop it. Nah, I hate picking the wrong side. It sucks. I've been watching the news, and I can't help but be taken aback what's going on between people and the companies that these people buy from. Target, they know. Believe me. Target has been in more than hot water. They have been boycotted this year because Target, they're an interesting case because they took it upon themselves to try to be, or at least seem, super inclusive of everyone. Now, these companies aren't people. They're trying to make money, and the hope there is that everyone will want to spend their money here if we look like we're for everybody. That's the idea that goes into it. And a lot of people would say that that's just good business. You want to appeal to as many people as possible, so as many people as possible buy your product or products, right? And so they did that. They took it upon themselves to be the place where it's like, look, Target, you can come here, you can get anything. It doesn't matter who you are. We'll make up products just for you. All right? When your month comes around, we're going to make products. We're going to make products that nobody ever made before because nobody asked for. We are going to blow your mind with our products just for you. And they did every year. They managed to blow my mind by making a product that, as a black person, I never knew I didn't want to see. Black History Month would come around, and then they'd hit you with something where you're like, do you know any black people? Every product that Target came up with for black people during Black History Month felt like they came up with it off a rumor. Do you ever, in my head, I'm like, there's no way a black person pitched this thing, you know? It would just be like, it would be like grape flavored. You're groaning like you didn't see it too. Like, it just be like grape flavored root beer or something. It'd be like, hi, I don't know who told you to do this. They would come out with stuff that made you go, okay, well, even if a black person pitched you this, there's no way you're gonna make enough money off of this new product to make it worth it. Like, in my head, I was like, selling this for a month doesn't make sense. I think you can have a lot of leftover grape flavored root beer with nowhere to go. And so Target didn't just do it to, black people. They did it to everybody. All of my friends got a special month at Target that made them go, huh, this is odd. And they never got the response that they wanted. Like, I'm sure Target was like, oh, they'll love this. It's Pride Month, they'll love this. But none, not a single one, not any of my queer friends ever said, oh, we gotta get down to Target. They got that rainbow volleyball. You know that rainbow volleyball that we love, because rainbow is our whole personality. You know how we've never wanted anything unless it was rainbow. People do to queer people with rainbow what they do to like black people with products sometimes, where they'll be like, I don't know how to market it to black, just make it music, I guess. Try to get more black people to, I don't know, eat at Burger King. They're like, what about some drums? And so that's one of the things, is that Target in their efforts would sometimes still get into like these mini scandals off of people being like, what's the plan here? Some people would be offended sometimes. And then, there's obviously the thing online where people would get mad at the people getting offended. They're offended, the people are offended. And then they take up for Target, kind of, but then they don't even want the product. It's not like they want the product. And so they're taking up for Target because they're like, hey, we like grape flavor root beer over here, right? That never happened. It was always someone like, they made it for you, why are you so offended, right? And then taking up for Target as if they want a rainbow volleyball. Very weird. It's like a very weird investment to get into like a product that nobody is buying. And then Target would try to like sidestep. They try to come up with something else. It would be worse. It'd be so much worse. Next year, they're like, we're going to do right by everybody. This product is going to kill them, all right? They're going to love it. Watermelon paper plates. And then they see the article, and they're like, okay, maybe that was bad. I don't know, maybe, how was I supposed to know? It's not like any black people are like in the C-suite, so. There was one too that cracked me up. This one genuinely is very funny to me. Like none of them really offended me, but I really couldn't get offended at this one because it was so funny. So basically, Black History Month came around and they had made a bunch of like prominent black leaders, these magnets with a bunch of prominent black leaders on them, and all of the magnets were like labeled to the wrong person. Like it was you could just tell whoever did it that day. Like they were looking at Booker T. Washington, they were like, Muhammad Ali. Like I just don't know who that product's for. Like, personally, I just don't know. Yeah, I don't know who was like, oh, life is good. It's almost perfect. But you know what I don't have? Martin Luther King on my fridge. And sometimes people were more than just offended by these products. Sometimes people felt like that this was like a direct mocking or something, you know, and so then they would boycott Target. And a lot of these previous boycotts, I don't really know how much market value, I don't really know how much stock went down, because there wasn't really a unified front on some of these boycotts. I'm sure they hurt, but they didn't make news in how much they hurt, you know. And then in 2020, in the wake of George Floyd's murder, right, Target, like a lot of companies, made pledges. They made pledges. Target pledged somewhere in the neighborhood of like $2 billion to black businesses over time, and $100 million to black communities also over time. And yeah, that was you know, you look back at 2020 and you remember 22. You remember what everybody was like, we gonna stop being racist. Remember that? Remember in 2020, I mean, we were all in our rooms. Everybody was like, who would I even be racist to? They're not here. You know how hard it is to be racist when they not even here. You know, we're gonna stop it. We're all gonna stop it. Companies pledged to stop it. People pledged to stop it. Everything. And then we got outside and we were like, oh, I remember. This is America. Come on now, we gotta do a little racism. We said it, but come on, we said a lot of things, all right? We said we were gonna learn another language. We didn't do that either. We were inside. You say crazy stuff when you get cabin fever, like, I'll stop being racist. No. And so then you have the next few years where Target themselves, no one was talking to Target that I know of. Nobody had put a target on Target to like be the great hope of black business. They got involved. They were like, and we'll do $2 billion. But nobody was looking at them that I know of. They just inserted themselves, you know, like an annoying person would. And they made a big pledge. That's a big pledge. Even if you were a multi-billion-dollar company, $2 billion is like a lot. And so you see when Target gets all into all the diversity, all the inclusivity and everything, that's just to try to make money. I hope we can all understand that. And not just because they betrayed the things that they said that they cared about like 5 years ago. I think even when they were saying it, even when it was happening, we were like, okay. I mean, I look at a company making promises about how much its mission cares about people, multi-billion-dollar company. I look at that the way I look at, like, sexting. If you've ever been sexted before, depending on who it is, you've read the message and you've said to yourself, the thing I say to myself when I read the mission statement of a billion-dollar company, you're not gonna do all that. No, that's a lie, that's a lie. And I don't even know where this money was supposed to go or where it started going or if it was just for the press release. I have no idea. But I know that when Trump won, Trump immediately, day one, was like, we're going to get rid of DEI. We're going to get rid of all of these programs. We want everything to be merit-based and fair. So obviously we have to get rid of as many people as possible. who earned their position over time. And so that's what he did. He started making moves immediately. And then Target, once again, could have done nothing. That's what's so crazy about the situation Target's in. They could have said nothing. Nobody was checking for the watermelon paper plates. In fact, if a Black History Month went by and Target didn't make a new product, we probably would have thought, wow, good on you. Y'all really have learned from your ways. Y'all really a regular store now. You're not trying to help or anything. You're not throwing out, Malcolm X, but it's Michael Jackson. Y'all are just being a regular store where I can go buy regular paper plates. They didn't have to say anything, but then Target came out once again, inserting themselves like an annoying person would, and being like, hey, we're getting rid of DEI too. People were like, oh, okay. Once again, no one was talking to you. And look, these are moves that are made for money. That's what they always were. Even when I heard about those pledges from Target, it didn't make me go, oh, Target, you care about me? I was like, all right, yeah, I guess the next time I'm on my way home, I need one of those, toothpick things. The thing that's like floss, but it has a handle. I guess if I need one of those and Target is on the way home, maybe I'll buy it at Target. That's as much as it moved me. But just because I didn't have a business and I didn't really know what this pledge meant, so it didn't change my mind about Target. I don't care about Target enough for my mind to be changed. I just went on about my life. And then, whenever they made this statement of we're getting rid of all of our DEI too, I was like, guys, I still don't care about you. You can't move me one way or the other. There are other stores on the way home. But people who either were pledged that money or have been watching Target to make sure they kept their word, they noticed that statement. And they noticed that it's pretty convenient to get all the social capital out of making a pledge. A $2 billion pledge and a $100 million pledge that you haven't had to come up good on. And now you're going to end it just in time to not really have to get into it. That's very convenient. And so then there were people who called them up on it. They were like, all right, look, a pledge is a pledge. You can label it however you want, but you said publicly that you would be donating this money. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to boycott. We're going to boycott Target. And then this Target boycott started. And a lot of people poo-pooed it initially. A lot of people were like, Target gets boycotted all the time. Didn't you hear about the grape-flavored root beer? But this thing was different. And there's a lot of numbers in it. There's a lot of numbers to the tune of $100 million to more than $2 billion. This thing takes off, really takes off. And I found out about it late. I did. I'll tell you right now. I found out about the Target boycott very, very late. And I don't mean very, very late as in yesterday. I found out about it when I was in Target. I was in Target. And then there was somebody also in Target leaned over to me and was like, hey, we don't shop here right now. You got to see this from my perspective real quick. From my perspective, I had gone into a store. Into a store. I'm not thinking about his Target. I went into a store to get what I needed to get. And then while shopping, I was approached by someone who was like, we don't shop here right now. You know how perplexing that is? so many things were going through my head at one time. Because the first thing is like, we don't shop here right now. In my head, I'm like, all right, do you work at like Walmart or something? Like, do you? What's your deal, right? Then I had another thought. I was like, okay, all right. We don't shop here right now. But you're in here. I said, but you're in here. And they were like, I'm in here to let people know we don't shop here right now. And I was like, oh, interesting. And effective, like I wasn't aware. It's just so funny to have somebody in the store to let people know we don't shop at the store. It just feels like the most, it's just the most like, what's it called? It's the most civility I've seen in what must feel like to the store, robbing the store. Because I put that, like in my hand, I had the toothpick with the handle, and I was like, oh, I already had it in my hand, but I guess I can put it back. And then I walked out, and that's money that they didn't make. It's like that thing is effective. And so I didn't buy the toothpick thing. I left, right? And in my head, I left, but I was also like, all right, that thing was like $6. So I guess they didn't get my $6, but hopefully they really needed it. Hopefully that $6. I love when a company who's done something bad need the money bad. Like, you know, like when somebody needs the money bad, they're like, hey, look, brother, look. If you can hold me over with this $8. And so, you know, I left. I went to CVS. To my knowledge, they hadn't done anything, so felt like a safe place to get the toothpicks. I've had something in between my teeth the entire day, so I need it desperately. Even when the man was telling me we don't shop here right now, he was like, ooh, you got... And so, yeah, so I left. And wasn't really sure what would come of it. And then on the way home, I'd see Target and be like, yeah, whatever. I'll make it to CVS. It's 2 more blocks. Really not knowing, because a boycott now is different than a boycott from the past. A boycott from the past, you had to. It was imperative that you used your body and your voice to be there in real time. You had to go there. You had to go out. You had to pick it outside of the store to let people know how you felt about the store. And the numbers that you had, it sort of dictated the narrative, you know? Because they couldn't run. They had newspapers that they could maybe run some ads in or try to create a narrative, but nobody could argue with what they saw with their own eyes. Not yet. It wasn't present day. Because now, if you want to boycott, you have options. You have options you never had in the past. You can be there with your voice, with your body, right? Or you could be online organizing a different picket line, organizing a different room full of people in agreement with you, outrage at this company, you think they've done something wrong. And it doesn't even have to be a worthy cause. Truly, that's what's crazy about it. It's like, it's the same as it's always been, but there's just different avenues to do those same things. So now you have the benefit. Instead of needing to fly everyone who cares about this thing and thinks this thing to the same space that you're in right now to be in a picket line with you, so you can show the company that hundreds, maybe even thousands of people feel this way, you can just be online. These companies, they're trying to be just like us. They're trying to act and behave like people. They want you to think of them as a person, which is why they do things to try to ingratiate themselves to you like a person would. They make pledges of things they'll do, things that maybe would ingratiate you to them and feel like they're your friend. They're not your friend, they're a corporation. But You can use the fact that they want to seem like a person to you to let them know how you feel about them. That's access that has never happened until now, you know? And so you get all of these people doing it at one time, and it does have a compound effect. Because it's not as visible as it was in 50s, 60s, 70s, I think we sometimes lose a little bit of hope and a little bit of understanding of what a boycott can do, of what a protest can do. Because it seems like these companies have so much money that they can never be brought back down. But that's just not true. You know? You look at Target from then to now, and I know market valuations go up and down. I know they fluctuate. Things are not set in stone just because they go bad for a while. But them going bad for a while is a wake-up call to the company. And people boycotted Target, even up until present day. I don't know when it'll be over, to be honest with you. I really don't know when I can go in Target again. And I'm not thirsty to go in Target again. I'm just like, it's on the way home, and I just have to keep reminding myself, like, no, we not, no, right? But Target has lost more than it promised. Target's lost more than $100 million, and has lost more than the $2 billion that it pledged. You know, by the most recent estimate that I saw, and it could be different on a different day, it could be different in this moment, but Target, through this boycott, has lost somewhere in the neighborhood of $12.4 billion in market value. And it's because of people boycotting. I think a boycott is also difficult to wrap your head around sometimes because it's not doing something. You know what I mean? It's not, you aren't. It's not like like when you go and protest, you went and you protested, and now your throat is sore, your feet tired. But a boycott is like, don't. Like y'all are doing it right now. Like y'all are boycotting Target right now. You just don't go. Because I'm like chronically online, sometimes people get upset about stuff, and I don't get it because it's not my thing to be upset about. Like it's not, maybe it's not my culture, or I don't have the connection to it that other people have. So, you know, I don't necessarily take all outrage seriously, but when people are upset, I try to hear them out to a point. Doesn't mean I'm gonna agree, but I'm like, let's see why this is such a big deal. And I didn't know about the attack on culture that's been happening this week. I didn't realize how bad things are out here. I didn't know. Admittedly, I didn't know. I looked into it as soon as I did. I had no idea the impact of changing the Cracker Barrel logo. I didn't know what this would do to people. Now, if you're sitting there wondering, what is Cracker Barrel? If you were sitting there wondering, what is Cracker Barrel? You've lived a good life. If you're sitting there wondering what Cracker Barrel is, you are doing perfectly fine. But just to bring you up to speed, it is a restaurant, a sit-down restaurant, and they have a side that is restaurant. They have a side that's like little gift shop, knickknacks and stuff. It's very cute. I grew up in the South, so I grew up with Cracker Barrel, right? And Cracker Barrel, they look. Listen to me, all right? Sometimes something happens, and everyone is so reactionary now that like they don't form their opinion authentically. I saw this and I didn't care. And when you don't care, you're able to be at least a little bit closer to objective, right? So I saw what was happening. And they changed the Cracker Barrel logo. If you've never seen the Cracker Barrel logo, get ready. As far as logos go, it does the job. That says Cracker Barrel, And then there's a barrel. And then there's a guy next to the barrel, right? And the guy next to the barrel posted up. The guy next to the barrel is out here feeling himself. He's over here like... And the new logo says Cracker Barrel with really nothing else, or really like just two ovals around it. It is objectively worse. I understand that the people upset are making it about something that I at least don't think it's about, right? Because there were people that saw them get rid of the guy and the barrel, and then they were like, this. The first impression was of someone who had a stroke over it, so that... But people genuinely were like, this is insane. This can't stand. This is white genocide. Listen to me, I'm no expert, and I could be wrong. I'm wrong all the time. But I'm pretty sure that just as many white people are alive after they changed the logo as there were before the logo change. And any people who have sadly passed was incidental. I don't think it had anything to do with the Cracker Barrel logo change specifically. And look, I don't know who this dude was to the, like, I don't know if somebody just drew him or if that's like the founder. I don't know, because admittedly I didn't care enough to get into it. But all I know is that look, I'm not on their side as far as everything they're saying, but this is a worse logo. Like, it just is. They basically did the Washington football team to white people. They just up there saying what it is and not giving us anything else. Nah, it's rough. It really, that's bad. Especially with that guy, that was, I don't know. Y'all did it. It said Cracker Barrel, and then there was the barrel, and then there was the... the guy. Y'all being rude, not me. And so, yeah, Cracker Barrel was facing immense backlash, threats of a boycott. They done with Cracker Barrel over here. And admittedly, look, if we're talking business for a second, just business, it is kind of wild that the CEO said something to the effect, this is what I've read, the CEO said something to the effect of, MAGA doesn't have to eat here, we'll respect their decision not to, right? So they got directly called out. They got directly called out by this CEO. I don't even know what prompted it. I don't know what the question was that led to that answer. But I will say, look, we talking business, from business. Remember, business. I'm gonna throw it out there, and I could be wrong. I love being wrong. I could be wrong, but I do think they were the only ones eating there. So, like, That would be like the dude at the Red Hat Company being like, we don't need MAGA. It's like... Unless there's a new baseball team, I think you might. No, it was truly wild. And now MAGA's had a insane backlash. Look, I don't know what's bots and what's actually people upset. All I know is I've seen a lot of tweets. A lot of tweets being like, I can't believe, look at these. You know what's funny too? It's like sometimes people get mad at you and they start describing you in their anger. And it doesn't sound as bad as they think it sounds, but because it's what they're mad at you about, it sounds bad. I saw this one tweet that was like, look at this woman. She single-handedly tanked Cracker Barrel stock because she wanted to be a woke girl boss. She wanted to put her whole life into her career, and then she rose to the level of CEO. Only to tank the company, though. She tanked the company. And yes, she's a young CEO, but she tanked the company. I'm just like, as you list the thing, like as I was reading the tweet, I was like, I mean, outside of like 8 of these words, this is a good LinkedIn profile. That's why it almost felt like a bot, because it was like complimentary and angry at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, after her departure from this company, she came to Cracker Barrel, where she quickly rose through the ranks, only to tank the company, but quickly rose through the ranks. Okay. No. And like, that's the other thing that's frustrating about being online right now, is like, because so many people are not clear with the joke they're trying to make, I don't know what is a joke as far as like the remodel and redesign of Cracker Barrel, because that's also what's happening. They changed the logo, but changing the logo is what companies do when they're just floating something. They're just throwing the idea out there to sort of test the market reaction. Maybe they've already actually changed the logo, but it's very easy for a company to tweet out from the company account, what do y'all think about this logo? And do your market research that way. It's simple enough. But they said that not only were they changing the logo, they were going to remodel and redesign 500 locations, is at least what I read. And I saw a picture of the redesign. Look, I already wasn't eating at Cracker Barrel, so it's really like no stress to me. But for those that love Cracker Barrel, I was a little stressed out for them, because they really trying to modernize it, I guess. And the reactions to it were interesting. The reactions to it, it blew my mind a little bit. Because there were people genuinely being like, this is an erasure of American culture, and it is an erasure of white culture, like white heritage and everything. And like, I've been to a Cracker Barrel, and yes, it's very white, but like, I'm not even saying Cracker Barrel is bad. I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to like figure out how to word this. Like, it's like, if you want to just talk about like white culture, like if you concerned with like white heritage, it's just Cracker Barrel should be so low on that you know what I mean? I've grown up around white people. I've known white people my whole life, and very few have ever mentioned Cracker Barrel when it wasn't at the next exit. Like, I didn't know it meant this much to white people. That's ignorant of me. I am sorry to be walking around in America of all places, not knowing how important this was to your heritage and culture. I don't don't know. Look, I'm not gonna speak for anybody, but I feel like even white people read that were like, me? No, I've had Cracker Barrel because, I've been on the road, and I've always had it when it was like the last stop. It was like you either eat now, because they know where to put the Cracker Barrel. You either eat now, or you wait 35 minutes until the saddest McDonald's. You know what I mean? It's either like, look, you either have a burger or some pancakes, or you wait 35 minutes to be poisoned. You can decide. You can either have a little too much syrup on your pancakes, or, have the Snickers flavored hemlock. It just makes me mad. They're not even trying to be food anymore. They're like, no, we put the fryer is in the floor now. Like, it doesn't change. It does not change. I have a friend he's sweet. He's a good person. He's a very good person. But he is like gross. That's just a fact. I'm not being mean. I've told him to his face. And he has before, eaten in his car to the point of not knowing that he had like a wrapper in his car, and to the point of like maybe not finishing his meal in the car, going inside, and to the point of having an old burger in his car for quite a while. And a McDonald's burger, to be fair, not just picking on McDonald's here, any burger left out for long, for days, for road trips will smell. My problem is a McDonald's burger left in your car for a month. Stop smelling. Food is supposed to go through a process. Whatever that food is, it could be fruits, it could be vegetables, it could be meats, right? It could be everything except like maybe seeds are supposed to go through a change. They get to a point where they're growing, they get to a point where they're ripe. Even if it's meat, you get to a point where the animal is killed, the animal is prepared, and then the meat is there to be eaten. Even with processed food, the process is usually to extend the shelf life of the food, but there's still a time to eat it and a time to not. And the fact that McDonald's goes through the process, like the burger goes through the process, they actually, I think, kill a cow. They actually, I assume, make a burger. And then they actually sell it to you. And then maybe you get two, and then you only have time to eat one. And then maybe it falls off the passenger seat, and then it slides back because you were making a sharp left turn because you don't know how to drive. So you change lanes last minute when you're on the highway like a lunatic who's trying to get killed, who's trying to be injured in a car accident. And so you swerve, and then that swerve slides the burger under the seat, and you go about your life. You get home, you go to work the next day, you come home, you go to work the next day, you come home, and you do start to smell something. But because you're gross, you're not going to do anything about it. You just sort of know that you smell it. You're aware that there is a smell. You just are thinking about it sometimes like, never mind. That's the thought process of someone who is nasty. Because you know it's in your car, you know it's here, and you recognize it from before, from the last time you went, nah, probably not a big deal, probably not worth addressing. And then you wait. You wait until a friend, a good friend, a person who is not nasty, person named Josh gets in your car because you offered them a ride. And when you take one of your famous left turns and almost hit the car in front of you, you slam on the brake. And when you slam on the brake, something slides to the front of the... Something hits poor Josh's foot. Josh, being inquisitive, looks down and sees a fully wrapped McDonald's burger and reaches down and there's a feeling in the burger. A little tough. And then I'm like, oh, your burger fell. And then you disgusting freak, you go, what burger? And I'm like, this burger. And then I hold up the burger and then you go, huh, I haven't had McDonald's in weeks. And then Josh goes, oh. It's either that or Cracker Barrel, okay? And look, a part of me understands where people are coming from. A part of me understands that some people hate change. Some people love the nostalgia of going to Cracker Barrel. Some people they like it as a restaurant and they would prefer it stay the same. That's actually pretty normal. I even get upset sometimes when a grocery store that I like switches up the aisles a little bit. They're like, actually, we figured that the noodles should go over with the pasta. We had broken it up by ethnicity of the foods, and then we were worried that looked bad. So then we just put every noodle-shaped thing together, the noodles, the pasta, even just long sticks, they all on the same aisle right now because we're one people. We don't want to break people off and make people be like, ooh, you not as good, you gotta go further in the store and to aisle 8 because you like this sort of noodle. We just put everything in one. Even then, even when that's their reason, I'm like, ugh, why'd you have to change it? I knew where it was. Now I gotta be in here longer. And so I get people who are like, I just don't like it. I don't get people who are like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. That always ends up, I don't know, people always end up telling on themselves in that regard. If this is the worst thing that's ever happened to you, that a company you don't own changed their logo that you only looked at when you went. I don't know who loves Cracker Barrel enough to have the logo in a frame and kiss that picture every night before bed. I don't know what sort of Cracker Barrel freaks are out there. But yeah, the backlash has been stiff. It was swift, it happened quickly. They announced this change and then they lost, apparently, $100 million in market value. I didn't know there were that many people to be upset about Cracker Barrel in dollars. I don't know if Cracker Barrel can afford that. The knickknacks are only like $2, so. No, they're in hot water right now. You just never think of the word valuation when you think of Cracker Barrel. Do you know what I mean? Like if Cracker Barrel, if they had been talking about Cracker Barrel on like Wolf of Wall Street it would have been because the main character was smoking crack out of a barrel. You know what I mean? Like, it's wild to me that people are this upset. And I don't know, that's what I find interesting about like boycotts and protests sometimes, is that it just needs to be intentional to be effective, you know? And it could happen to any company. They forget that all the time, that it could happen to any of them, you know? But it just doesn't happen often enough. You know, they've consolidated to a point, they've built up monopolies to a point where if you're gonna participate, you have to buy from one of them or some of them some of the time. And that's the situation we find ourselves in, you know? And then it's nice when you get a little glimmer of hope when people decide to, you know, vote with their dollar and say, if this is how you feel about me, Target, then nah, then no. And then, while you may not be Target's #1 customer, you may not be a Target head. Them not getting your $3.50, them not getting your $26.42, them not getting your $100, them not getting your $5, them not getting your $3, them not getting your $485 you're moving, them not getting all manner of money from you starts to equal up to about $100 million. And because of the system that we live in, you know, very few of us, and I say us as in all of America, will have that much money to move. That is a very minute part of the entire population that has that amount of money to move, but together we have that much money to move, you know? And because these companies are not people, because people you can reason with, people can understand something that is based in logic, you know? But companies don't. Companies only understand gains and losses. And so the only way to make them understand is to make them lose. And make them lose so much that it hurts, and it really hurts. And then maybe when it really hurts, they'll make a change, not because better people are there, not because they fired a CEO and then hired a better person as a CEO. I don't know that many CEOs, but I imagine at a certain point, they have a similar outlook on the company and a similar outlook on the employees. I think that because of the system that we've built, when it comes to corporations, you're gonna find very few compassionate CEOs or just incredibly reasonable people who wanna do what's best for the customer. That might be what they say, but what the company does is different. And so I think that inside of all of that, you make the company hurt until someone comes along and maybe their background is in accounting, maybe they're a sociologist, who knows, maybe they started in PR, but they know we have to reverse course or else the hurt will continue. And then you get what you want. You get what you boycotted for, what you protested for. These things are still possible, and it is simple, it is not easy, and it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long time. We are at an advantage. We're at an advantage that the people in the 50s, 60s, and 70s weren't at, because we don't need to be there all the time with our body using our specific voice. We can organize online. We can organize in person as well. We can build community around a cause. And then we can exact that cause to the tune of $100 million, you know? And then when that thing happens, maybe the next company will go, oh, but you know what happened to Target. I've been so fascinated by what has turned out to be Women's Week in Space. Could not have seen this coming. Truly could not have seen this coming. Okay, so basically, just to bring you up to speed in case you are just like living your life or whatever. There was a Blue Origin. They went up. I don't know what to call it. Because some people get offended when you call it a trip, but then other people get offended when you call it a mission. So it was a flight. It was a flight to space. So on this flight to space, on this Blue Origin flight to space, you had Carrie Ann Flynn, who's a film producer. You had Lauren Sanchez, who is Bezos' fiance. You had Aisha Bowe. I think that's how you pronounce her name. And she's an actual like aerospace engineer. And then you had Amanda Wynn, who is a bioastronautics researcher, which when I saw the words together, I was like, every once in a while you'll see somebody who has a job or a field of study that makes you feel dumber than is fair. Do you have it? Because you'll just be living your life and then they'll be like, I'm a bioastronautics researcher. And it's like, all right, is that Iron Man? When you... I don't know. She went to Harvard, so you had Carrie Ann Flynn, you had Lauren Sanchez, you had Aisha Bowe, you had Amanda Wynn, you also had Gayle King, and then you had Katy Perry. You had this set of individuals come together to go up in space. So here's what happened. Basically, they went on this Blue Origin flight. Now, Blue Origin is owned by Bezos, and it is like space tourism, pretty much, where they will send you up there, you'll fly up there, and you'll look around, and then they drop you. But it's like completely safe. And there was a bell. I don't know what the point of the bell was, but there was a bell that they rang before they got in. And ringing the bell was how you could tell that Gayle King didn't really want to go at first. Like that, like... That was tough. In case you didn't see it, I think Aisha had just rung the bell. She was all happy. She was like, yeah, you know. Gets into the little craft, and then Gayle's walking up behind her, and she goes... I've only seen that face one other time, and it was when my mom was trying to teach me how to drive. I love my mom, and I know my mom loves me, and I know that my mom, but she believes in me sometimes too much, you know? Like, my mom would say the stuff that parents are, like, quote unquote supposed to say when you're a little kid. You can do anything you put your mind to. Ooh, you know, you may not get it now, but if you work harder, you're smart enough to figure it out. All of the positive affirmations you're supposed to give a kid to get them to accomplish something down the line, something difficult, right? Something that may seem nearly impossible. And I really believed my mom when she told me these things. When my mom told me, oh, look, you may not be the fastest, the strongest, you may not be able to grasp something right away, but if you put your mind to it, if you put your mind to it and you read that sentence over and over and over again, eventually you'll get it. And then if you keep doing that with the whole book, you'll understand it. You know, it's just, my mom was, always imparting on me that enough attention and hard work could get you to the places that talent got other people easily, you know? And these are important lessons. I look back at the things that my mom said, and not only are they true, but I wish more people heard them, because sometimes when you just pump somebody up too much initially, you give them a false belief that they'll just get it or it'll just come to them, and then when it doesn't, they're more likely to give up, right? Whereas if they're told off top, you're not that good at this, they'll know that there's something to work towards, and that the thing is possible, that everyone who ever accomplished anything wasn't already good at it. It took work, it took perseverance and everything. And I believed my mom when she told me all these things until it was time for her to teach me to drive. Because when we got in the car, my mom was making a face that didn't exactly say, you can do anything you put your mind to. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like if I could do anything I put my mind to, I'm putting my mind to driving, and then you get in the car with me, you sit in the passenger seat, and you going... I'm starting to think that there's more to this whole thing, you know? And so Gail walked up. They all get in the craft and they all pop off. They all get in the... It was shaped weird. But I'm not an astronaut. I'm not a physicist, I'm not a scientist, so I will be using the wrong terminology a lot. Be patient with me. But this rocket craft, this... It wasn't because a ship feels substantial. You know what I mean? Like, the Death Star feel like a ship. This feel like the tip of a rocket. Feel like they got in the tip of the rocket. And so they in the tip, and they leave, right? And so they but up, you know what I mean? Like they driving but up, right? And so they shoot right up into the sky, and they're gone, right? And I thought when I heard about it initially, I thought, oh wow, they're gonna be gone. I didn't know anything about Blue Origin. I didn't know anything about the flight. So I thought they'd be gone for maybe, who knows, like a week or something. Like I thought it was gonna be. I was like, man, Gail gonna miss some, you know, Gail King's on the morning news. She gonna miss a couple of days. You know? Like Katy Perry's got a whole tour that she's starting off, like, and I'm sure that, you know, Aisha, like I'm sure the people with like jobs I can't pronounce also have somewhere to be. So I'm like, they're gonna be gone for like a week, and then they came back almost immediately. It was 11 minutes. I didn't know it was gonna be 11 minutes, and honestly, 11 minutes. Because here's the thing. The whole thing is a very cool sounding thing, and I've never done anything like it in my life. So I'm not diminishing what it must be like to go up that high. I'm just saying I've been on runways for an hour, and I feel like for what it was, they should have got some more time up there. That's just me. That's just me. I'm not. Do you see what I'm saying? Like I'm saying, if you go ahead and you do all this stuff to go up there, like don't make it a high five. Like let me be up there for a while, and then they come down, and it looked like they landed hard. Now I've both heard from friends, and then I read a whole thing about how there's this thrust that they use with the landing where it basically goes off one time to sort of soften the blow a little bit on the way down, and then it goes off one more time to make sure that you don't slam into the ground. That being said, enough dirt did move that I thought they slammed into the ground pretty hard. I thought they were all gonna be flat when they opened the door. When I saw that, I was like genuinely worried. I was like, it made me by myself sitting in my apartment go, ooh! And it doesn't help that the audio also doesn't sound great. I don't know if you've heard the audio of them coming down, but they're up there in space and they're floating and everything. And then when it's time to come down, all you hear is, it's the most garbage, like,
It made it sound like they were hurting them in there. Like, like, no, listen to it for real. It sounds insane. And don't get me wrong, if it had been me in there, I can confidently say, if it had been me in there with them, you wouldn't have heard anything. You wouldn't have heard anything because I would have already passed out a hell of a long time ago. I would have passed out so fast. As soon as I saw Earth coming back fast, I would have been like, nope, thank you. You wouldn't have caught me screaming because I would have been unconscious. There's no way. I wouldn't be up here. At most, you would have got a... Like, that's all I'm hitting you with. No, it was... That was crazy. That was crazy audio. Oh! It honestly felt like, okay, because it did low-key feel like what happened in the landing was like somehow everything Gail was worried about going up. You know what I mean? Because this is also what happened. The only other time, I know I was talking about my mom teaching me to drive and everything, but I think the other thing that makes you make a face like that, like ring the bell, and then walk towards the flight crap ship. I think the other thing that can do it is like a bad pep talk. There are good pep talks. There are pep talks that like really bring it out of you. The thing that the person saw in you that was giving you the pep talk, it comes out through their inspiring words, right? You see it a lot in football movies. They're like, Coach, we can't. Coach, we can't get another touchdown. They big. They big and we not as big. Coach, we can't do it. All right? They're big and they're pushing this way and we're trying to go that way. Coach, it's impossible. We cannot get another touchdown. I know all we need is another touchdown to win the big game and not feel like losers, but it'll never happen. And then the coach is like, you listen here. You listen to me. Because I'm the only one with a discernible accent in the film. You can tell me all day what you can't do. But even when you say it, even when you say you can't do it, you know what's in there? It's can. Keep saying that you can't do it. Keep saying that you can't do it. Every time you say you can't do it, you're saying you can do it, but you're adding extra. You don't need the extra. You can do it. You can do it if you just want it bad enough. How bad do you want it? How bad do you not want to be a loser? This team, they beat you every year. That's why we're doing the film. Every year, they beat you. We covered it. And we even covered in the foreshadowing that one of you is going to have a lifetime injury. But every year, they beat you in this game that doesn't really mean anything. But you put your bodies on the line to lose out of fear. You don't have to be afraid anymore. You got to put your bodies on the line one more time. This is your very best I want from you because this is it. You're seniors. This is all you have. Some of you are barely going to graduate. And none of you are making it to the NFL. So unless you want the last game that you ever played in your entire life to be a loss, you'll go out there and you'll put your joints, your tendons, your cerebellum. You'll put your knees, your ankles, your Achilles, your MCLs, your ACLs, your finger joints, You'll put it all on the line, all for the sake of that American pigskin to get to the other side, because this is war. This is exactly like war, except you're not really fighting for anything. And when you win, when you make it to the other side, when you get that touchdown and you're standing there and they topple over the field goal post, which is going to cost thousands of dollars, and everyone runs on the field to try to lift you up, and they hurt their backs because they're old. But you're all this town has, because industry left decades ago. And so they'll try to lift your oversized bodies on their shoulders. But it won't work, because everyone in this town somehow has sciatica. So it's not gonna be pretty. But when they lift you up, and you, quarterback, when your girlfriend tells you she's been keeping it from you the entire season, but she's pregnant, you'll be like, wow, at least my son's gonna have a winner as a father. And you, running back, when you're holding your leg hoping it's not that bad, it is that bad, by the way. Hoping it's not that bad. You're dragging it, trying to celebrate with everybody because you're behind, because everyone sort of ran to where the touchdown was and you were hurt, so you couldn't get there, and then everyone trampled you, but you got up, which is important. When you're all lifting your helmets, like they're the helmets of warriors. I want you to think about this speech. I want you to give yourself this speech every day that you go to a job that you hate. Because this is how you're gonna get through life. This is an all-American pep talk. Now go out there and win. Or don't and hate yourself for the rest of your life. But go out there and do it, right? I felt like Gail got a way worse pep talk than that. I feel like Gail's pep talk was just like, girl, why are you so nervous? You ain't gonna die. You know how hard it is to die? You're not gonna die. Just because you're going miles above the earth and then they shoot you in there with fire, you're not gonna die. It's just, you know what I mean? It's gonna be a little explosion under you, and then that's gonna shoot you up in the air, and then you'll be in space. You'll be floating. And I'm sure they got it under control. I'm sure you're not gonna float forever and then never come back. I don't even think they would let that happen, all right? And then when you come down, I'm sure it's gonna be fine. I'm sure you won't be like, oh! Like, I'm sure it's gonna be fine. When you head back down, I bet you it's gonna be so smooth. You're gonna be floating down in a little parachute they do, and then I guarantee it. And then when you fall, you know, when the little craft hits the ground, you won't break your back at all. You know what I mean? That's already been done. We talking research in the 60s and 70s where people came back down and broke their whole back. That's not you, okay? That's not gonna be you at all right? All you gotta do is just trust the experts that have already built this thing. Trust the people that trained you and went through the process of what's gonna happen. And trust that, you know, at the end of the day, God is in control. So if it's your time to go, it's your time to go anyway. It's not like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, you do all the math you want, but if the Lord wants you, he'll take you. And that's, you know what I mean? That's not, you know, we not on our time, we on God's time. And so if God wants you to die right now, you be dead. You know what I mean? It's like, why are you worried? Just, you know. You made everything right with everybody before you went, right? Like, it's not like you even need to. I'm just saying, like, when they close the door, just ask for forgiveness, and then let what will be, you know? Que sera, serat. No, she just looked like she got one of those rough pep talks that had her like, okay. And they went in there. And when they shot up, they had about, I had to read this part, I wasn't sure, but they had about 4 minutes of like weightlessness, which I thought was zero gravity. It turns out it wasn't actually zero gravity. They were falling, but slowly, because they went up to the, I'm gonna mispronounce it, but they went up to like the Kármán line, and the Kármán line was discovered by this dude named Kármán, named after himself. That's what dudes tend to do. It's my thing. So just so you don't forget who brought you here. But yeah, Kármán was he was German, and you know I had the absolute pleasure and the honor of going to the Jet Propulsion Lab today and getting a tour. Well, don't clap for me. I didn't know anything before I got there. But I got a tour, and they were explaining that Kármán was German, but he came over before. He wasn't a Nazi. He came over before everything really popped off in Germany, and then he actually helped develop rockets to shoot at the Nazis. He was kind of the most opposite of a Nazi you could be. He was kind of like, hey, get him, right? Which did make it awkward when we brought those Nazi scientists here. That's gonna be a quiet day in the lunchroom. Woo! You just eat your sandwich, it's like, oh, hello, Hans. I see you made it out. Beautiful weather. Yeah, basically, they went up to the Kármán line, and then when you go past the Kármán line, that's like when you're like in space. Now, admittedly, I didn't know any of this, so I thought it was all space. I thought as soon as you left, it was space. I'm not saying I've ever been on a flight and I was like, ugh, space. I'm saying like they were high enough that they saw the moon and they saw like the corners of the earth that just looked cloudy, and I was like, that looked like space to me. It's very spacey. And what I loved about them floating, so a lot of people gave them like a ton of flack as if they were just taking selfies the whole time. It's not they were taking selfies, there's just cameras in the thing. They were looking at the cameras, but the cameras are above the window. So everybody's like, why are you looking at the camera? Look out the window. It's like, no, they were looking at both. They can see the window because the camera's right above it. And so they were looking in the camera some of the time, but you can see where everybody's looking out the window too. And they were weightless, so they were all excited. They're like, oh, look. And they were like, one of my favorite things was at every stage, there's just so many there's so many shots of Katy Perry floating in front of the camera that were genuinely very fun. Like someone will just be in the middle of like, and then Katy Perry. Man, yeah, that was great. That was dope. Like, and she just had stuff too. There was at one point she had this daisy, and I was like, all right, yeah, I guess. She had like her tour set list there. I was like, y'all let Katie bring anything she want on the flight. That's wild. Man. I was half expecting Katie to bring a picture of Katie up there. That was dope. That was dope. And they were having fun up there, you know. It was nice to see people, you know, have fun. Then they came down and everybody was so mad. Everybody was so mad at them. Everybody treated those 6 women like they were another reboot of an all-female Ghostbusters. Everybody. People were so mad at them. They landed and people were like, "Why'd you go in space? Why are you floating, Katie?" Like, geez, sorry. Man. And admittedly, they got out, and I did see Katie's interview. Right when she got out of the craft, and look. All right. I'm gonna do my best. Okay. I know when somebody is like annoying or odd online and you say one thing, you're one person that says one thing, it's not, in your mind, that big of a deal because you're one person saying one thing. You might not even be saying anything that nasty. You're one person saying one thing. But if 10 million people all say something, we are now piling on one person who didn't do anything but be, I don't know, I guess a little tone deaf or annoying or whatever, right? So quickly, what could have been like a couple people being like, that's not it, turned into the entire internet being like, oh, send her back. That's me quoting Wendy's. You know Wendy's, the sandwich company. You know Wendy's of baked potato fame? Wendy's. Wendy's was like, send her back. And then even, you know, Katie's team shot back at Wendy's like, how dare you wish death on Katy Perry? It's like, all right, both of y'all need to chill because she didn't die the first time. They said send her back. I don't think anybody's wishing death on. All right. And then, you know, she had her interview, and I've been the person who has tried to help the person who didn't hear what they sound. Okay, a good example is there was a foreign exchange student one time at my school, and whenever people transfer, especially like the year's already started and they transferred, right? That is an easy target for other kids. That's a kid that's not, I'm not saying they have to get bullied, but are potentially gonna get bullied because now anyone who is at the bottom of like the high school hierarchy, there's a new person. We don't know anything about this person, so unless they prove that they're very, very cool, very, very quickly, they can be at the bottom. And because no one wants to be at the bottom, the people that were at the bottom also pile on this person, right? And so I remember just being in conversation with people like, hey, chill, leave them alone. I know they're a little odd. I look back, I was bullied. I was bullied when I was a kid. And now as an adult, I look back and I'm like, bullying is wrong, but I do see where a couple of them were coming from at certain points where I was doing the most. Like there were a couple times I did open myself up to some scrutiny. Yeah, I mean, like there are a couple of days that I could have not been humming some musical theater number so loud in the boys' locker room. Like I could have not invited some of that in. I know I was just being myself, and everybody should be allowed to be themselves, but there's also common sense. And I don't know. Yeah, I was definitely in that situation one time as a kid. And I was like, hey, look, I know that they're different, but they're different. Just chill, right? And then one time they took out all the crystals, put them on the desk. Class hadn't started yet. All the crystals on the desk. Everybody, look, what you doing? And it's like, oh, these are my crystals. And then I was like, all right, y'all, be cool. Be cool. And then they grabbed 2 of the crystals and they're like, brrr! I'm like, nah, see, you not helping me help you. You see you not helping me help you right now. Who else in the class? Who else doing it? I'm not saying don't be an individual. I'm just saying you know these aren't good people around us right now. I don't want anybody to be just bullies for being themselves, but yeah, she comes out and they ask her, some questions. And admittedly, this is the other thing people gotta keep in mind, that some of the questions they asked her were a setup, because that person interviewing her was not like a journalist. I'm pretty sure they worked at Blue Origin. Because the first thing they say to her is like, you're officially an astronaut. She didn't say that. They said that to her. And she was like, thank you. And then they were like, tell me how you feel. And she was like, I feel so connected to love. Y'all be cool. See what I'm saying? Do you see? This is how it happens. I know. I heard it too. I know. But y'all be cool. Because Katy Perry was doing a lot. In fact, Gayle K, they asked Gayle K. They were like, hey, what was it like? And then she was like, oh, we get up there. And Katy actually sang. When we were up there, she sang What a Wonderful World. We were up there. And to me, just to me, that sounds like a little too much. We only gonna be up here for like 5 minutes. I don't know if I want to be floating, listening to what you've elected to sing to us. It wasn't like they were floating like, Katy, now! Like that wasn't... I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm not saying anyone didn't enjoy it either. All I'm saying is that that's what Gayle Cake said, and when she said it, I had hoped. This is what I genuinely want from the bottom of my heart, is for Katy Perry to have sang What a Wonderful World like Louis Armstrong. That would have been fire. I'm not gonna lie. That's a Katy I can get behind. If Katy, I see his ring. Railroad through. Floating? If Katy Perry had been floating, singing what a and I think to myself, be amazing. Oh, that would have been incredible. That would have been. Look. That's the thing that I don't know how much they paid to take that flight. I would pay that much money to see Katy Perry do that, floating. That'd be amazing. But you just, in your heart, you kind of know that's not what she did. You know what I mean? You know she did it in the most like theater kid way possible. You know what I mean? They in space, they float, and she was like that. Go ahead and plug up that one ear. Try to find the note somewhere. And you floating too, so it's extra hard to find. People were so mad. I didn't even know, I don't admittedly know much about space at all. I don't at all. That's the wildest thing, is that I shouldn't even tell you this, but basically, okay, so I went to the Jet Propulsion Lab and they showed us these arrows that are basically tracking pretty much like all the things that are known, right? So pointing at Mars, pointing at certain like planets, moons, everything. And the arrows will randomly change based on what they're pointing at. And admittedly, this is how dumb I am, right? I was confused when everything wasn't just pointing up. I'm not a flat earther. But I can see how people get there because in my head, it said Mars and then it went left. And I was like, Mars ain't left. This thing broken. Mars ain't left at all. That's crazy. Mars supposed to be up. I'm getting an attitude in my head. I'm like, Mars supposed to be up. What you mean Venus down? You ever been, that's where China is. People don't have any sense, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's wild. They just It went to point at Saturn and it was pointed at me. I was like, this thing broke, dog. I'm telling you. No, I don't know much about space, and there were so many people that were like, they faked the whole thing. They didn't even go up. They never went up at all. The whole launch was AI, and then when they landed, that was a tape from a different time, because those people definitely died. And it's like, no, they don't need to fake it. They don't. I'm not trying to come out in support of like Blue Origin specifically, but it's like they don't need to fake it. This is like the 11th one that they did. They did like 10 of these already, and no one cared. Like, they didn't do the whole press run like they did for this one, so they just did 9 of them in peace. The first one that they did, I think, was William Shatner was on it, and he was like, I was saying all this space stuff, and it's like, bro, you also... Like, that is the one thing I'll say. That is like the one critique that I have of the internet's response to this, is that it's like, a part of me is like, y'all are mad because it's all women. You know what I mean? When William Shatner got off and he was saying all the space stuff, you were like, oh, William Shatner got to go to space, that's so cool. And it's like, yeah, that is cool. That it's cool for anybody to get to go to space because it's space. It's rare, you know? But you can't let him off the hook for saying like hoity-toity stuff just because he played space. This is my thing. Maybe I'm the only one that feels this way, but I was happy for Gail that she got to go. I know that she's not, you know, like an astronaut. I know she's not trained in this sort of thing, but Gail needs a break. We make Gail interview everybody before their life fall apart. We made Gail interview R. Kelly right before jail. Don't act like you don't remember that. We made Gail sit there. R. Kelly know he going to jail too. You could smell the jail on him. He knew he was going to jail. That's why he was sitting there, didn't know what to do. He was half singing, half crying. Is this working? Sweating, people coming up to blot the sweat off, and you're like, y'all killing me! Hitting notes while he screams. Gail had to sit there the whole time. Robert. Robert. Are these cameras on? I hope these cameras are. Robert. Gail needed a break. Let her have a break. You know, let her go to space for a second. Because there's not that many differences. Tons of similarities in the people who went up to space and the people that went to Coachella. There's a ton. Both have potentially horrific bathroom experiences. You know what I mean? Like true, imagine. Because first of all, you at Coachella, right? And you just trying to get through your day, see your favorite bands, have experiences with your friends. You're financing this thing. It's gonna take you months to pay off, trying to make the most of it. And so maybe, yeah, you had a chili dog before you came. Now you're standing there, sort of stand dancing, listening to Weezer. Sick riff comes in, and right then You feel it.
Not a quiet one.
A quiet one is your body telling you, hurry. You ever have one of those quiet ones that like, it's just a moment, and only you know it happened. You're the only person in the world that knows. It reminds me of those moments in a horror movie where a little kid's like, run. So you book it. You go out of whatever badge area you have and everything. You don't care about anything. You're just running, trying to get through. And what do you find? A line. A line to use one of the most blown out porta potties in the history of America. This thing, it's like a little wooden. It's like they're not even supposed to be wooden anymore. This is from Woodstock, 1977. Same thing. You know, maybe try and make the most of life. You get this incredible experience. You get to go to space. You get to go to space with these incredible new women that have come into your life through this experience. You've had your 2 days of training together, getting to know each other, doing this like op-ed together and everything, and you try and enjoy life to the fullest. And so you do. You get ready to go on this space trip. It's gonna be 11 minutes, but they're gonna be an incredible 11 minutes of your life. And so yeah, before you leave home, you have a chili dog. You have a chili dog, and you're walking on, and you ring the bell. You're having a good time. You strap in and everything, and right as you strap in, you're waiting to take off, and you hear. They take off, you feel a couple G's, you're like, no. You get into space. You almost touch the Kármán line. Then you hit the ground. You hit the ground. Plop. Okay. I made it. 11 minutes. I held it together. You pop out of the little pod, trying to calmly look for the nearest bathroom. Everybody clapping. Everybody clapping. Oprah there, the Jenners, everybody clapping. And then somebody runs up. How's it feel to be an astronaut? Can I tell you in 5 minutes? Oh, there's a ton of similarities with Space Trip and Coachella. Both cool outfits. You know, people at Coachella usually make theirs, but they have these cool suits made and everything. Both things sponsored by Amazon, sponsored by Bezos. Both things yield really interesting, esoteric captions on Instagram. You know, they ask Katy Perry how she feels, and she goes, "I feel so connected to love." This is the most powerful, spiritual, loving experience I've had, second to the birth of my child, right? And Be honest. Tell me that's also not Instagram caption about Coachella. Like if we're being fair, you know? When I watched Katie's interview right out of the pod, I was like, y'all clouded this woman just because the edibles hit. Like, everyone was so mad. They were so mad. And I don't even think they're mad at, like, Katie or any of those women. I don't think they're mad that, like, the thing is, like, tone deaf in nature or whatever. I think they're mad because people are, like, having a hard time living. Do you know what I mean? It's like they are kind of like the easy placeholder right now for how we feel about how the actual world is. No one's really mad at them. If they had gone and come back, you wouldn't have known. That's how little it affects our actual lives. But we're mad because we see it and we see because the thing with the Blue Origin as well is we don't actually know how much it costs to go up. And we know some people get invited to go up and some people have to pay. But they do a thing, and this is very crafty. This is how the rich stay rich, right? We know that it's like $150K deposit if you want to go. We don't know what the next installments are. And I feel like we don't know what the next installments are so they can charge people different stuff. Because maybe you put down 150 and then you have to pay another 150 to go up. And then you put down 150, but you got to pay 500,000 to go up. And as long as y'all don't talk, it's all good. Because these people come together from all walks of life and all these different places in the world, and they go up. But for a similar flight, for a similar flight to what they did, there was a guy who paid $28 million. All right? He's allowed to be mad. He's allowed to be mad that anybody got to do it for free because $28 million. Even if you're a billionaire, $28 million is still a dent. Like that's wild. $28 million. So I'm just saying. It's wild that thing. We're assuming anyone on that flight had to pay. I can't imagine Bezos making his fiance pay. You know, I don't know if anybody on that flight paid. And I know that the only poor version that we have of what they did is froyo. Because you ever been filling up your cup? And you don't have that much of your account, so you gotta fill it with hope. You gotta hope that that's a lot of air. That's a lot of air. Let's just put it on the weight right here. $5.50, thank goodness. One time I was getting froyo and I was by myself, but there was a woman checking out before me, and she had stuffed it, got the cookie dough in there, and she had the M&Ms. She had a couple extra flavors, and it was high. It was like a little pyramid of froyo and everything. And then old boy went to ring her up, and it was $135. And I was like, I know he lifted the scale because I'm looking at $17 easy. And then it was my turn, and I put my little one flavor with 2 popping bobas in there. And he rang me up for $13.59. And I was like, so, you got your thumb on it or what you do? This is crazy. Because I don't think we're that mad at them. I think what's actually happening is that it's very hard to get by right now. And it's hard to escape. And I don't know, everyone could use a little escapism one way or another, and we're losing access to that because whether you want to go on spring break, and spring break is the most expensive it's been in potentially recorded history, or you want to just go to Coachella. Dude, Coachella tickets, so I didn't even know this was happening. Apparently there are people that are like financing their Coachella trip in like installments, like they putting Coachella on layaway. And it's not like some people. Apparently it's like 60% of ticket goers are like on a payment plan for Coachella, which is insane. That's wild. That you, in increments, long after, you still paying for Coachella, long after Coachella and stuff. And then you see these people who get a break. They get to go to space for free. And you know they could have paid. You know they could afford to pay it. You get angry. And I think people would be less angry if they just went ahead and whether they did a whole flight or half a flight filled with people who just need a break. You know what I mean? That's all you gotta do. Just get like two of the most tired moms you can find. And you barely have to pitch them. It's like, look, you will be weightless for 5 minutes. They'll be like, put it in my veins. You know, just find like one server who's done like 2 doubles in 2 days. You will go to space. You won't be able to hear anything. Yes, that sounds right. You know, just somebody is down on their luck, just needs to pick me up. Somebody who life has been incredibly hard for. You just grab them and you tell them, hey, I'm gonna give you a trip to space. It won't be long, but it'll be spectacular. You will see Earth in the way that few people will ever get to in their entire lives. You'll see the beauty of the entirety of the planet, and you'll see how small all these people, all these problems, all these things are in the grand scheme of the universe. And Katy Perry will sing What a Wonderful World like Louis Armstrong to you. It'll be spectacular. Y'all been amazing. Thank you so much. I'm Josh Johnson.